Hello everyone, welcome to the UFC 330 from Philadelphia recap. I said I'd get this recap done and it got delayed because Sunday ended up being very, very busy. Yesterday ended up being very, very busy. Had a job interview, thinking it went well, hoping it went well, and that's the personal life update. So what about the fight card? This fight card was interesting for me because I come out of it with dare I say, hot takes, because in the main event and the co-main event, there is a lot of talk about how disappointing these fights were. How unriveting, unexciting, how the two losers performed very poorly. And I just disagree. Don't get me wrong, I didn't find either of these fights particularly exciting or anticipatory. I may legitimately never watch Robertson versus Dern again because it's a stylistic matchup that I don't think actually is going to come across Dern ever again. And I don't think it'll come across Robertson ever again. So there's not a lot of film study review. And if a fight's not good, I'm not going to watch it for fun. Maybe as torture. Maybe if I want to torture someone, I guess. But Garry versus Islam probably has some rewatchable value. But realistically, I thought that both of these fights played out exactly what I thought they were going to do. I picked decision, I put money on them, etc. I would say Makhachev probably slightly underperformed against Garry, but in a way that I think is just probably just a fact of him at 170, and that was really about it. And people were super, super disappointed in Garry. I'm I don't know what you thought he was going to do. Don't get me wrong, he didn't have the magic bullet, he didn't have the ways to win, he didn't come anywhere close. I had him winning 2 rounds. I had him winning the 3rd round, which I think everyone did. And I had him winning the 4th round, which I think 2 judges did not give him, which is stupid because the 4th round is Islam Makhachev with 3 minutes of control doing nothing, landing 7 total strikes, and getting hit 41 times. I think it's actually the best round Garry has, honestly. Tactically and overall, the 3rd round is better because Garry avoids the control in that round. It's the only round where he's not controlled for 2+ minutes. So that's good. But he doesn't turn that into offense. He outlanded Makhachev 12-5. It's whatever. And the 4th round I thought was actually him being okay, yes, I'm getting controlled. Yes, I'm getting clinched. Yes, I'm getting pinned to the fence. But I'm going to land strikes. You're going to get 2 takedowns. You're going to get your 3 minutes of top control, whatever. But I am going to at least hit you. And I thought that was the right way to go. And I think it's just that people had expectations that Garry would be able to do better, and I don't know what they were. I said in the preview for this that I was interested to see what Garry would try to do to stop Makhachev from Makhacheving. I stand by that. I was interested to see what he would do, but I didn't think he could actually stop him. I was it was a pure thought exercise. What are you going to try to do and fail in this matchup? And in that regard, I think he clearly had some plans. He was going to try to stay the outside. He was going to try and stay with sharp footwork. He was going to try to utilize kicks to punish Makhachev at range. And he was going to try to punish entries into the pocket. The problem is you just can't stay away from Makhachev. Makhachev is fast enough on his feet, has good enough pressure footwork, has an ability where when he doesn't get takedowns, it does not dishearten him. He's not Khamzat Chimaev, for example, who just preventing his takedowns actually does seem to suck the life out of him. And also, he doesn't probably has just a way better weight cut because Makhachev strikes me as a guy who does things very, very correct as far as preparation is concerned. And I've always said that Chimaev strikes me as a person who really does not. But we're enough crapping on Chimaev. It was just that, Makhachev is going to keep finding the clinch. He is going to keep finding wrestling exchanges. And Garry can fight them off well, and he did. Because let's see, what was the final numbers? 7 out of 15 for Makhachev on takedowns. And that is pretty low, honestly. Even the Jack Della Maddalena fight was 4 for 4. The Renato Moicano fight was 1 for 2. Moicano stuff to take down. I don't even remember that. Even Dustin Poirier. I guess you could say the Poirier fight is similar one where it's 5 for 16. But that's just the kind of thing is that I don't really know who avoids this scenario. And as far as like people who I think have the physical abilities or the technical abilities or both to fight him off in those positions, maybe Michael Morales, maybe Sean Brady. Like they're big, they're huge, they're wrestling guys at their core. That being said, neither of them have a concentrated like striking game. Morales is spastic and Brady's is bad. So I'm not even saying that I would pick those guys. It's just like those are the only guys I could see doing it. I guess and Shavkat Rakhmonov, if he ever sorts out his health. But everybody else, it's like no. Like people are like, "What? We want to see Carlos Prates with this title shot next." And I have no problem with the Carlos Prates title shot. I think it ends up very much looking the same though. Like more violent, more one punch, more dynamic options. So it's a better fight. But it's the same kind of vibe. Like Gary tried to do what is within his physicality and his skill set the right things, and it just did not work. And the key difference is there were people that thought it would, and I just never was on that train. So for me, this was not nearly that bad of a fight. It's not a good one. It's not one that I'm particularly going to go watch again, except for tape review purposes. But it was it was my expectation, in a nutshell, that Gary would have the right ideas and just not be able to do it. And then Mackenzie Dern versus Jillian Robertson was even worse because I'm like, what is Robertson winning this fight even look like? And people are making a big deal about Dern's better wrestling in this one because she ended up with 4 takedowns on 6 attempts, which for her is very, very good. The truth of the matter is I don't think Robertson's ever been actually that hard to take down. Like she wants to go to the ground. She wants to scramble with you, blah, blah, blah. And again, another weird scorecard here because one judge gave Robertson 2 rounds. I am guessing like the 5th round is her best round, okay. She got on top. She had 4 minutes, 28 seconds of top control. Despite that, still ended up in only winning by 6 significant strikes. She won that round. But I thought the first 4 were pretty solidly for Dern. And I'm not really sure. I'm looking at the numbers. And in both the 2nd and the 4th round, Robertson landed more strikes. But they weren't good strikes. For example, in round 2, she has 0 significant strikes per UFC stats. And she ends up on the bottom for 3 minutes plus of both those rounds. In the first round, she got worked as well. And the 3rd round is kind of close, I guess. 30 to 26 and significant strikes in favor of Dern, but she's again, gets a takedown on top for 1 minute 39. I don't know. I don't want to watch it again. Probably the 4th round that Judge Rick Winter gave. I disagree with that. Let me see here. UFC 330 scorecards. Can I quickly get... Yeah, here we are. Official scorecards. Rick Winter. You're the one that is the weird one. Yeah, it's the 4th round. I disagree. I suppose I get it, but I disagree. And then in the first one, Eric Colon is the only one who has my score, which is 2 rounds for Gary. And yeah, it's the 4th round that Sal D'Amato and Mike Bell gave to Makhachev, which I wholeheartedly disagree with. And those are terrible scorecards. And there's not much else to say about that. I guess the 2 controversies coming out of this is that Dern's talking about not having to fight Weili Zhang to really solidify herself as the champion. I have bad news for her. That is something she's going to have to do. If Zhang doesn't come back, I guess Zhang doesn't come back. But we've seen this in weight classes before, that it's really, really hard to build a substantial title resume and reign without actually having beaten the prior king or queen of the division. And we've seen it at lightweight to a certain extent in the post Habib years. We've seen it at the middleweight after GSP for a while there. It takes a long time, and I don't really know if Dern has, number one, the style that's going to keep that belt for that long, and she's also 33 years old. I don't know. I think history will look at Dern as like kind of like a bit of a paper champion. She won the belt because Zhang went up to 125 and then didn't want to come back. We'll see. I mean, I assume Zhang will come back and probably just beat her ass. And then for Robertson, the storyline coming out of this, of course, is Dean Thomas retiring from cornering and kind of really throwing her under the bus to a certain degree. His corner advice was terrible, and people are trying to defend it like, what? Like, there were no magic words that would get Robertson to win. Absolutely. Abso-freaking-lutely. There are a lot of fights in MMA where the corner's advice is not going to be good enough to get a win because the mismatch is just that level. The path to victory is that obscured. The path to victory is that unexistent. It doesn't change the fact that his cornering was garbage. Like, you could still judge it. And the only thing is, I think this is like, people are like having this revelation that like Dean Thomas may not be a great cornerman. I've never thought he was. All respect to Dean Thomas as a fighter. I enjoyed him fighting. The well-roundedness from the day, the MMA-ness of his game, like, and the fact that he fought a lot larger men for a good chunk of his career because he wasn't fighting in his natural weight class. Salute. And to be honest, maybe as a coach, he's phenomenal. Like in the gym. But his corner work has never been good. His fighters go out there and they either have a very, very obvious way of winning, or they don't. And it carries forward into his analysis too when they have him like talk on the broadcast. It's never particularly good. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not like that makes you a bad person. Just, it is what it is. Jalin Turner absolutely destroyed Caio Fernandez after Caio Fernandez tried to throw a spinning back fist or elbow. I'm not sure which it was, but like Turner was just like, "Oh, you're gonna throw that with no setup? Well, let me just come inside and waste you and do my thing." And like, "Hey, I'll take the money." I'll take the money. Dustin Stolfus, Mansour Abdulmalik. Ooh, this was not a good fight for Mansour Abdulmalik. Not just because he lost, but because this is getting concerning. This is a guy who's been in the UFC for a little bit now, and I know he doesn't have a lot of fights. He's still fairly green, but every time they've tried to give him anyone that belongs in the UFC, with the exception of Duško Todorovic, it has not gone well. He's beaten Wes Schultz, who has cardio issues. He's beaten Duško Todorovic, who's not very good. He beat Nick Klein, who's not very good, and also has cardio issues, kind of the Wes Schultz fight all over again. He had that draw with Cody Brunrich, which was not a good performance. Antonio Tricoli does not belong in the UFC. Yusri Belgari is like, okay, that's fine. Belgari is a very unique, super tall, super rangy striker problem. That is interesting. That is fine. That is at least a weird thing. And a guy who beat Makhachev and whatever. But now to lose to Stolfus after that draw with Brunrich, this is a problem because like essentially Stolfus beat him by having that dog in him, just making it hard, just not self-destructing like Schultz did, or self-destructing like Klein did, and just being there to absorb punishment and make him work. And he couldn't deal with that. That is really concerning. So concerning. He also got out-wrestled by Stolfus at points. Now, mind you, in the first round. In the second round, Stolfus went 0 for 4 on takedowns, but ended up on top and got the rear naked choke. The things that are good about Abdulmalik are still there. He's still, for middleweight, a very, very good athlete. He's still got that wrestling background. His offensive striking's not too bad, but like his ability to just take pushback for long periods of time, because Schultz and Klein did give him pushback. there doesn't seem to be a deal with that. Like, Brunrich and Stolfus are not good UFC middleweights. They just are game. They just are tough. They just are going to fight you. That's kind of about it. So I don't have much else to say about that. I'm concerned. And I don't know what you do with him because, like, you don't want to give up on him because, again, there's still an upside there. There's still a tremendous ceiling to Mansour Abdul-Malik. But, like, unless you're just going to give him a complete can again like Antonio Tricoli, I don't know. Like, this should have been a win. This should have been a win. And it was not. Edson Barboza versus Esteban Ribovics, I don't have much to say. It was an old man fight. Barboza had a couple of moments there where it was nice, but Ribovics was landing pretty much at will. He was not at will, but like he was able to pressure Barboza. He was able to get into range. He was able to, get inside despite a 6-inch reach advantage. He was able to land some shots, land a lot. He landed 47 strikes in the first round, 23 in the minute 20 minute 30, pardon me, that led to the stoppage in round 2. Barboza retired. I probably would have just honestly thrown the towel in after the first round. He had a massive cut along his shin. It was just, nothing was working. Like, what are you going to do when you're Edson Barboza and you have a highly compromised kicking leg? Like, it's not going to work. You're retiring anyways. We don't need to see this. But for Ribovics, it's a good win, I guess. But Ribovics is a weird fighter because he keeps picking up a lot of like casual hype off of fights that just like people were like, man, that dude went out there and he showed a great deal of heart against Daniel Zellhuber and he got the win. And then he had a competitive fight with Nasrat Haqparast and he beat Els Brenner. We got to favor him against Mateusz Gamrot. Why? And even to a certain degree, this fight was kind of like he was a big favorite, and it's like, and people were like talking about it like because it was him and not because of Barboza aging out, and I don't know. He's a fun fighter. I want to make this clear. He's a fun fighter. Keep him around. Keep him brawling at this level. It's just he's a fighter that seems to just get like this false start where people are like, well, he's really good, and I'm like, he's not really good. He's not built well because of, again, he has a 69-inch reach, which is a problem. It does mean that he is going to have to fight his way inside every time, and he can't wrestle well. So what are we doing? He's kind of like Argentinian Drew Dober, essentially. Like that's all it is. There's nothing wrong with that, but that's all it is. Chidi Njokuani, Yoel Alvarez was a boring fight that people are accusing Alvarez of having thrown. I don't think so. And I say this as someone who picked Alvarez, but it really occurred to me very, very early on in the fight that I'm like, Alvarez is a tall dude. He's a former lightweight who's 6'3", and he has minimal experience at welterweight. And those guys are all people who have to come to him. They have to create the car crash that Alvarez actually does really well in. And he doesn't really have a way of actually making that happen. And it was pretty early from this fight that like Chidi Njokuani, who is also 6'3", and I think has the reach advantage. I'm pretty sure he does. Yeah, he's got a 3-inch reach advantage. He's the same height. And he has a good kicking game. It's just like, I'm just going to sit at kicking range and kind of work you over. And I'm going to land more. Yeah, landed him 46-22, 48-25, and 65-29 throughout the fight. I'm not going to do anything particularly violent. I'm not going to throw a lot of punches. I'm not going to necessarily hit you in the head a lot. I'm going to work the body. I'm going to work the legs. And you don't know how to make me stop. And to the people claiming that Alvarez threw the fight, like, there's a maybe. There's always that possibility, I suppose. But realistically, name me a fight where Alvarez has actually been the one to actually close the range down. And again, this is not me being like, I told you so, you doubted my boy Chidi. I picked Alvarez. I picked Alvarez under the assumption that, like, at some point those car crashes would happen. But when it became very obvious that it was a big light bulb moment watching the fight and going, God damn, this guy doesn't actually know how to do that. He needs the other guy to make the circumstances that allow him to win. It's just that most of the people he's fought, and to be honest, most of the welterweight division, to be honest, are guys who are going to do that for him. Even in his loss to Yaroslav Amosov and Arman Saryukin, they did that for him. The only other person who really didn't was Damir Ismagulov, who beat him. So I should have probably taken that as a bit of a giveaway. Joe Duffy probably should have been able to work some kind of range game on him, but he did not. So that was the disappointing one because that was supposed to be a really, really good fight, and it wasn't really. And then we had Charles Johnson versus Eduardo Champolin. This is a good fight. Champolin was doing very well. I thought he won the first round, but of course had the point deduction in it. So 9-9. And then I had Champolin winning the second round. His stand-up looks good, looks crisp. The takedown defense, not half bad. He stuffed all of Johnson's 5 attempts. Again, it looks good. And then he got hit with a Scottish twister. So, good job by Charles Johnson to come up with a cool submission. A win that he realistically did need because his last fight against Asu Almabayev, don't get me wrong, Asu Almabayev is a very, very, very good fighter, but it wasn't great. Then the fight before that with Bruno Silva, a lot of people thought that he lost. And then, of course, getting embarrassed by Alex Perez. So, he needed a win here. And losing 2 rounds to Champolin probably isn't fantastic, but I do think Eduardo Champolin is a guy whose career is going to go pretty well. He's got the skill set. I just thought that, well, to be honest, I can't even say that this was too much of a matchup because he was winning up until Scottish Twister. So that is what it is. Donte Johnson knocked out Eric McConaughey. I picked McConaughey. That was a bad idea. I don't have much else to say. Tresean Gore pretty convincingly beat up Vicente Luque for 3 rounds despite losing a tooth. He went out there and Sal D'Amato gave a round to Luque, guessing the first round. Luque technically did land more strikes, even though I thought Gore had the better strikes. But the second and the third round were very, very much Gore rounds. They were the significant strikes and the total strikes heavily favoring him. And I still don't really know what to make of Gore. It's a very weird one because he's still very underseasoned at 32 years old. But, there are clear physical stuff there. There is clearly something to build on, and it's just is it too late? But he looked good. The stand-up looked pretty solid. He managed to... He survived a Darce choke in the first... I forget if it's the first or the second round now. But there was a Darce choke, which is the go-to Vicente Luque move. The go-to, I finish everybody with this, was in the second round. And despite that, Gore survived that and comfortably won that round, outlanding him 51-10 and 24-6 on significant strikes. So there is that. Gore did very well here. But I do think that a lot of this win is also Luque is... The door is closed. I don't want to say I won't pick him again, but 185 is him fighting men who are going to be bigger, stronger people than him, and he's aging out. It's problematic. Rafael Tobias let me down in his fight with Lucas Fernando. Credit to Fernando. His striking looks crisp. It looks good. He's a good Muay Thai fighter, all that jazz. I'm here for it. The knee to the body was pretty sweet. The absolute domination throughout all 3 rounds here is alarming. That being said, I also do think Tobias fought really, really, really badly. You have a guy in Lucas Fernando who has had problems with wrestling. He has had problems stopping wrestling. He has had problems avoiding wrestling. And Tobias's choice was to get one takedown, relatively easy in the first round, and then just not do it again. So I picked Tobias under the idea that he would grapple at least, and he did not. He elected to have a striking battle with Lucas Fernando, and there are guys who can certainly do that. There would be guys I'd like to see him have a striking fight with. I'm looking at Carlos Ulberg. I'm looking at Yuri Prohaska. I'm looking at Dr. Nagojai, who beat Rafael Tobias last time out. That'd be kind of fun because they're both kind of a little bit single strike oriented strikers who are a little textbook and don't necessarily deal with chaos all that well. That would be fun. There's a couple of new guys from the Caucasus who are doing pretty well with that too, and Justin Jacoby as well is in the mix. But Rafael Tobias? No, dude. You need to grapple this guy. And you didn't. You didn't really show any kind of implication that you wanted to. So, there you go. 3rd round knockout for Fernando. He's going to be fun. I don't think he's going to necessarily be good, but I think he's going to be fun. And admittedly, it is 205. There's not a lot of grapplers out there. So, there's a lot of people who will stand with him because the idea of taking somebody down is just not really actually part of their repertoire. Ramiz Brahimaj versus Neil Magny. Brahimaj had a pretty good first round, which on Twitter and on Blue Sky, I basically said, I have it 10-9 Brahimaj, but winning the first round against Neil Magny is not that difficult. And yeah, the second round, it was very clear that Brahimaj was kind of tired and also not at ease with like being at range with Magny, which makes sense. He's 6'3", he has an 80-inch reach. You are 5'10" with a 72-inch reach. Very similar to myself. And yeah, he got kind of worked over a little bit at range, and then like on the ground, Magny swept him after he got a takedown. Ended up getting on top, and Brahimaj tries to get up. Magny keeps the rear clinch, hurts Brahimaj, and pounds him out. Didn't look like great shots or anything like that, but it is what it is. Neil Magny goes out there and he puts you through the Neil Magny test. And it's still a lot of guys in this division that won't actually win that at all. And I was happy to win a bunch of money off that because I remember seeing Magny at underdog odds coming into that fight. And I was like, yes, please, let's go. Let's go. Speaking of bad betting odds, Jeremiah Wells, Mikhachev Orolbai. Now, this fight was going the way a lot of people expected it to go. Orolbai was able to get takedowns without too much issue, was able to put him in the tumble cycle, was able to land a lot of not terribly consequential ground and pound, not super hurting Wells, but like winning the fight. He was in control, he was landing more shots, he was doing his thing. 3+ minutes of top control in both the first round and the second round. Then in the third round comes out and Orolbai basically just gets absolutely wrenched on and choked out. the hilarity of Rogan actually predicting this to a certain extent by saying Wells really needs to grapple here was pretty funny. On the feet, Orolbai was getting clipped every time they had any kind of extended exchange on the feet. And in the third round, he gets clipped, goes in there, and then just gets shot with a choke. Like ducks in, boom, I have your neck. Jeremiah Wells has got massive arms, and he strangles the living crap out of him. He kind of retired, but also asked for a ranking fight. So, you know what? In fairness, like if he's 39 years old, so the path after fighting has to be something he's already thinking about, something he's already planning for, something he's already there. And if you're not going to give him a ranked fight, what is the point of doing anything more? He's done everything he can do at this like level. And this is not like I can't believe he's not ranked because like dude lost to Max Griffin, dude lost to Carlson Harris. But like what more is there around with him fighting guys like Themba Garimba, Mikhachev Orolbai, Semmelsberger, like whatever. Like he's been to the UFC, he's got himself 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wins. 6 wins, 2 losses. You can retire after that. That's fine. Dude's going to be 40 soon. He's got a kid graduating from Air Force. I don't know. Like he's established enough to like kind of make a living off of the post UFC like deal of like, I was a UFC fighter, come to my gym, come train with me sort of thing. There's not much else to be gained from just fighting the middle of the road guys. That was my thoughts on it. I don't know if that's his thoughts on it, but that was it. So the card overall, not spectacular. You know, it struggles from the fact that the main event and the co-main event, as much as I wasn't let down by them, were not interesting or exciting fights. Jalin Turner getting a knockout was very, very cool. As Ribovics versus Barboza was fun if you're not like sort of sad for Barboza. Alvarez versus Njokuani was a bit of a letdown, and then you had Stolfus outworking Abdul Malik, which is fascinating, but I think probably has a limited level of like actual casual appeal. And then you have McConaughey Johnson, cool knockout, awesome. Chamberlain versus Johnson, it's a fun fight. Gore versus Luque, bit sad, but a decent action fight. Firmino versus Tobias was an execution. Magny versus Brahima was fine. Oralby versus Wells was a huge upset. And shout out to Frank if he's watching this, because Frank apparently had both Dustin Stolfus and Jeremiah Wells on his bets and as a parlay. So he is raking in the money right now on the betting. So there you go. I also won money on Wells. I did not bet on Stolfus. I thought honestly Stolfus was going, the odds on Stolfus Abdul Malik looked correct, and I don't know. I bought in a little bit to the Abdul Malik hype train, and now I have train rider's remorse. Anyways, that was the fight card. I hope you enjoyed it. Where are we headed off to next? Because I do have 2 days here to whip up my my notes here, which I will probably start doing tomorrow. Let's see here. New promotion I don't recognize. Ego Fight Promotion. Ego Combat Entertainment. Out of Troy. Man, a lot of promotions in Ohio. There is no shortage of ways to get into MMA in Ohio, is what I'm learning from this whole thing. You would think that Tapology would have like a better page to this, but oh yeah, it's the HoboCop versus Fluffy Guard. I am looking forward to that fight. Doesn't mean a lot, but I am looking forward to it. But aside from that, Spivak versus Petrino, DeRitter versus Delidze, Mason Jones versus Markel Medeiros, that's fine. Carly Judice versus Yesela Chavez, Anthony Wint versus Terrence Chapman. I'm not familiar with Chapman. It's a heavyweight fight. I have seen Wint before. And by heavyweight standards, he is not a bad prospect. He's got some decent wins, including off of Contender Series. I saw his Contender Series fight, which he won in 34 seconds. So it is what it is. What is this Chapman guy? 5-1. Terrence Chapman, 5-1. Lost to Myron Dennis. Ooh. Okay, no, I'll do some homework on him, but not liking that. Not liking that at all. Jamal Emmers versus Larion Douglas. That's fine. Shamil Gaziev versus Kennedy Nzechukwu. That's fine. Hak Barras, Chris Padilla. That should be reasonably fun. Mauricio Barbosa versus Ryan Coos. I wasn't impressed with Ryan Coos when I saw him doing his thing. Not really. So, yeah, I remember he lost to Cameron Smotherman and Leandro Morales. And I remember watching both those. This could be a case where I've just been watching his losses and not his wins. Maybe I'll be really impressed, but decision win over Kevin Natividad does not exactly inspire, but that probably is something to have a look at. Beat Thiago Bello. Yeah, this is not a... We'll see. I'm not going to pass judgment on a fighter I'm just not familiar with. Gage Young versus Stan Dorsenville. I think is how you pronounce that. Dorsenville is coming off of LFA, where he's done some good things, including beating Dan Holt and Johnny Smith. He's got a couple of decent wins. I need to go refresh myself on him, but that could be good. Jackson McVeigh, Russ Schultz. That'll be sloppy grappling fun. It means nothing. These are two guys that are not going to last in the UFC long term, but it'll be fun. Why not? Chanel Dyer versus Elise Reed. Not a bad fight. I just probably don't have a lot of faith in Elise Reed to actually win UFC fights as a general rule. It's happened, so it can happen. But she beat Jin Frey and Jessica Penne and Melissa Martinez and Corey McKenna. They all have massive limitations when it comes down to it. McKenna's lack of reach and lack of game. Melissa Martinez's lack of size. Jinyu Fry. Interest, honestly, I don't know what is up with Jinyu Fry. She's just super, super low paced and seems to have no passion for fighting in the cage. And Jessica Penne should have been retired, and I think did retire off of losing that fight. So, not a great offering, but it is what it is. And at least we get a main event that I think is going to be a lot of fun. Not necessarily meaningful, but a lot of fun. So, check out the social medias and so on Linktree down below. There's also a Discord server with the MMA simulator, and I do some video gaming stuff as well. Right now I'm doing a Battletech thing on YouTube, and tonight I will be streaming Sins of a Solar Empire because I want to get amped for that one because they got a big DLC coming out, Sins of a Solar Empire Harbinger, and I would like to handle that, to get kind of like all jazzed and prep for that. So there you go. Have a good one.